All right, guys, sorry that I couldn't be there with you today, but did want to just run through a couple examples off the notes, just to make sure that you know how to work your assignment today. So the first question asks you to find the slope of line segment GK. So you have G here and K here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is label those X1, X2, Y1, and Y2. So G is 4, 3, that's X1, Y1. And K is -5, 3, that's X2, Y2. So then to find the slope of that line, you're gonna use the slope formula. So let's write it down here. It's Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. Okay, then from there, you're just gonna essentially take those numbers and plug them into the formula. So my Y2 here is 3 minus my Y1 here is a 3. And then my X2 following this formula right here is a -5 minus 4. Okay, then from here, we're gonna type that into the calculator. Remember that to open the pretty fraction, you're gonna push alpha link. So it's gonna be this one here, link here. And I'm putting 3 minus 3 over -5 minus 4. So in that case, my slope comes out to 0. Okay, and you should remember from our Hoivux lesson. Okay, that if it's a Hoivux, that means the line runs this way, it's horizontal. It has a 0 slope, like we just got, and then it's y equals whatever the number is. Okay, so take a look at number 2. Number 2 says that we want to find the slope of the line segment EH. So then I'm going to choose my points E and H. E is here. H is here. So then the first thing I'm going to do is label them. 3, 4 is going to be X1, Y1. And -3, 5 is going to be X2, Y2. From there, we're going to find the slope formula.
What's up with this class?
So Y2 is going to be 5 minus 4 over X2 minus X1 is going to be -3 minus 3. Then we're just going to put that into the calculator. So alpha link 5 minus 4 over -3 minus 3. Solution comes out to -1 over 6. All right. So let's take a look now at one of these problem sets where you're working through several different questions with multiple parts. So let's say that we're doing number 3, or actually let's skip 3, let's do number 4. Okay, so we're gonna skip this one, just to make your notes a little bit shorter. So number 4 says, write the equation passing through point D. So point D is 6, 2. And perpendicular to line segment AB. So the first thing we're gonna do is find the slope of AB. So AB is gonna be through 3, 5, that's A. And then B is -2, 4. So this is X1, Y1 and X2, Y2. So now let's do our formula. So it's M equals Y2 minus Y1. 4 minus 5, X2 minus X1 is -2 minus 3. So alpha link to open your pretty fraction. We're going to do 4 minus 5 across the top, -2 minus 3 across the bottom. So my slope comes out to 1/5. Okay, that's my slope. Now notice that it says, I want my line to be perpendicular to the original. So if this slope is 1/5, my slope needs to be flip of that. So if this is positive 1/5, then my new slope needs to be -5/1. And then remember that you can always type that into your calculator to see if it'll simplify. So -5/1, that comes out to just be -5. Okay. Then from there, we're gonna put our point slope form. Okay, so this is the one that we're using. I put a little star next to it. So it's y blank equals blank x blank. My -5 is my slope. Remember that that goes in the middle. And then remember that my x and my y, I have to remember to change the sign when I put them in the blanks. So my x is a 6, my y is a 2. So if this is a +6, I'll put a -6 in the blank. 2, I'll put a -2 in the blank. So I have y minus 2 equals -5 x minus 6. Okay, so this is x value opposite. This is the y value opposite. But remember, those come from the point that you're trying to pass through. From here, remember to solve it into y equals mx plus b, it's just gonna take 2 steps. You're gonna take the -5 from the outside, multiply it into the parentheses. So -5 times x is gonna be -5x. -5 times -6 becomes +30. Remember, you can do all those calculations just simply in your calculator. Okay, then from there, I'm gonna add this 2 across. 30 plus 2 is gonna give you y equals -5x plus 32. And that would be your final answer. So remember, you're gonna find the slope first. Then if it's perpendicular, you're doing a flip. Put your equation in point slope and then solve it for slope intercept. Okay? All right, go ahead and turn the page. We'll do maybe one more, just to make sure you kind of know what's going on here. So let's do an example with a parallel. So let's do number 5. Number 5 says, write the equation of a line passing through point J. So I'm going to turn my paper over and see what point J is. Says that point J here is 2, 1. So I'm going to write that down on my paper, 2, 1. And then I want to be parallel to HF. So let's write down H and F from the front. The point H is -3, 5. -3, 5. That'll be my x1, y1. And then for my second point F, my ordered pair is 5, -6. Okay, those numbers are just on the front of your paper. So -5, -6, that's gonna be your x2 and your y2. Let's do our slope. Remember that it's y2 minus y1. So -6 minus 5 over. And then I want x2 minus x1, which is gonna be 5 minus -3. Okay, put that in your calculator. -6 minus 5, oops, I forgot my fancy fraction. -6 minus 5 over 5 minus -3. Okay, just like that. And my slope comes out to -11 over 8. Now, in this case, I want my new line or my new slope to be parallel to the slope I just found. And so you should remember that perpendiculars flip. Parallel means that you're going to keep it the same. So if it's a -11 over 8 up here, it's going to be a -11 over 8 here. Now we're ready to put our equation in point slope form. Y blank equals blank x blank. From there, my slope goes in the center spot, which is 11/8. And then my point is gonna go in the X and the Y spot, but remember, you need to reverse the signs. So if this is a 2, I'm gonna plug in a -2. And if this is a 1, I'm gonna plug in a -1. Then from there, we're gonna distribute. Okay, these steps thankfully are always the same. So I'm gonna take my 11/8 and times it in by X. -11/8 times X is -11/8X. And then I wanna take that same fraction and times it by -2. Now I'm gonna use the calculator for this one. So -11/8 times, times -2. That comes out to plus 11/4. Okay, then from there, I see that my Y has a -1 with it. But remember, we want Y equals, not Y -1, so I'm gonna add this 1 across to the other side. So I have Y equals -11/8X plus, and then I'm gonna have to put this in the calculator. So 11/4, use your pretty fraction. And then plus 1. 11/4 plus 1. And that means my new second number is a 15. Okay. And then it should make sense to you that this is a parallel line, because my 11/8X and my -11/8X, those are the same numbers. Okay. I guess if you need to see one more example, I'll go ahead and do number 6, since your notes aren't that long anyways. So last example here, we want our equation to pass through point K. So I'm gonna flip over and see what point K is. Point K is -5, 3, so we see it right here, -5, 3. And then we want to be perpendicular to segment EF. So I'm gonna find points E and F, again, those are both on the front of your sheet. So it looks like E is 3, 4. 3, 4. And F is 5, -6. Okay, so from there, we are gonna do our slope formula. This is x1, y1, x2, y2, m equals. Y2 minus y1 across the top is gonna be -6 minus 4. And then x2 minus x1 is gonna be 5 minus 3. Okay, then remember, we can very easily put this into the calculator. So I'm gonna alpha link to open my pretty fraction. -6 minus 4 across the top, 5 minus 3 across the bottom. So I get -5 for that. Okay. Now, remember that I don't want this slope, I want a perpendicular slope. And remember that perpendicular means flip, flip. So if my original slope was negative, then my flip, flip slope of that, my negative would turn to a positive. And then for my 5, that's not a fraction, but remember that if you ever put a whole number over 1, that's the same thing. So if I make my -5 over 1, then now when I flip this, it'll be a 1/5. All right, so let's write our equation in point slope form. Remember, we're not using the original slope, we're using the perpendicular slope. So it's y blank equals blank x blank. My 1/5 goes in the middle, because that's the slope. Then my point is a -5, 3. So if -5 is my x, I'm gonna put a +5 into the blank. And 3 is my y, I'm gonna put in -3 in the y blank. Remember, those are always reverse. Then from there, I'm gonna take that 1/5, I'm gonna multiply it into the parentheses. So 1/5 times x is 1/5 x. But 1/5 times 5, we're gonna need to do that in the calculator. So I'll do 1/5 times 5, just like that. 1/5 times 5 comes out to a +1. Now remember, I want y equals, and this is y minus 3 equals. So to get rid of the -3, I'm gonna do a +3 and a +3. So I have y equals 1/5 x plus. And then I'm gonna add that up in the calculator, 1 + 3, that's gonna give me. Okay. So your goal for today is to finish your practice. The substitute should be passing that out. You're welcome to work together. If you finish it today, go ahead and turn it in. But if you don't finish it today, you can bring it home for homework and turn it in next class. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Okay, I'm sorry, it was a little bit loud.